What if I told you that your greatest enemy lives inside you, and that your worst nightmares didn't come to destroy you, but to reveal you? Carl Jung called this the shadow. It's what you hide, what you deny, what you fear. But running from it is running from yourself, because the shadow doesn't disappear, it waits. And the more you ignore it, the louder it screams. Through your dreams, your impulses, the choices you don't understand. The nightmare is the soul's voice saying, "Look at me. What scares you holds exactly what you need." Pain, fear, anger, shame, all of it can become strength if you have the courage to listen. You don't defeat darkness by fighting it. You defeat it by turning on a light. And that light begins the moment you stop running. The shadow is not evil. It's what you learn to hide in order to be accepted. It's the anger you swallow, the desire you deny, the sadness you cover with a smile. It's the talent you repressed because someone told you it wasn't good enough. It's your truth, silenced by the fear of not fitting in. But what is repressed doesn't vanish. It builds up, it twists, and one day it explodes. In crises, in self-sabotage, in decisions you swear you don't understand. The shadow acts when you're asleep, when your guard is down. It shows up in your nightmares, because that's when the unconscious speaks the loudest, and everything you've hidden wears the face of a monster. Carl Jung said nightmares are calls from the unconscious. They're not against you. They're trying to wake you up. Every dark figure, every chase, every fall into the abyss is a symbol. It's the unconscious speaking in its own language, showing you what's been ignored for far too long. Dreams, especially nightmares, are maps inward, and when you interpret them, you begin to see what once controlled you in the dark. Jung believed the shadow must be seen, recognized, and integrated. It's not about eliminating what's dark within you. It's about bringing it to the surface, about looking into the eyes of what scares you, and realizing there's truth there. There's power. There's you. Facing the shadow is not a simple act. It's a journey, a direct confrontation with everything you don't want to be, but are, with everything you've judged in others, but carry within yourself. Jung said, "You don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That's what true self-knowledge is, not just knowing the beautiful parts of yourself, but recognizing the ugly, the primitive, the painful ones too. The shadow shows up in moments of crisis, of anger, of jealousy, of envy. It appears when you explode and don't know why. When you sabotage yourself, when you project onto others what you refuse to see in yourself. And that's where the danger lies. The denied shadow doesn't disappear. It gets revenge. It takes the wheel of your life without you even noticing. It traps you in cycles, pushes people away, locks you into behaviors you swear you hate. That's why Jung said the shadow must be integrated, not eliminated. And to integrate is to recognize. It's to look at a dark part of yourself and say, yes, that is me too. It's having the courage to accept your own humanity, with everything that comes with it. The ego wants to look good, but the soul wants to be whole. So how do you do that? Jung suggested paths. One of them is observing your dreams without censorship. The unconscious speaks in symbols. A monster in a dream might be your repressed anger. An abandoned house might be a forgotten part of yourself. Dream analysis is the beginning of a conversation with the shadow. Another path is active imagination, a symbolic dialogue with your inner figures. You close your eyes and connect with those parts as if they were living characters within you. You talk to your anger, to your fear, to your pain. And in that meeting, you begin to realize these aspects aren't your enemies. They just want to be heard. They just want to exist. But preparation is necessary. Facing the shadow without structure can lead to confusion, an inflated ego, or destructive projection. That's why Jung emphasized the importance of awareness, of having support, whether therapeutic or spiritual. because confronting the shadow is a crossing, and on the other side, you're no longer the same person. You're more real, stronger, more whole. Because the shadow, when integrated, doesn't weaken you. It gives you access to a forgotten power. Anger becomes courage. Pain becomes empathy. Fear becomes instinct. You stop fighting yourself, and you begin, finally, to walk with roots. For Jung, the shadow isn't just the bad or negative side of your personality. It's everything that's been repressed, neglected, or left undeveloped by choice, by trauma, or by social pressure. And the path of individuation, as he called the process of becoming truly yourself, requires bringing the shadow into consciousness. But how do you do that in practice? Jung believed that dreams are one of the most direct gateways to this confrontation, and he emphasized, write down your dreams, all of them, especially the nightmares. No matter how confusing, violent, or absurd they seem, they carry symbolic messages from the unconscious. It's not about finding generic or magical interpretations. It's about observing patterns. Who's chasing you? What are you afraid of? What are you running from? These symbols are expressions of the shadow. And Jung said, the more frightening the image, the more energy it holds. Energy that's trapped in the parts of yourself you refuse to see. By writing down your dreams, you begin to build an inner map. You give shape to what was vague. You create space between the I that observes and the shadow that emerges. And that space is essential, because it's in that space that awareness is born. Beyond that, Jung spoke of the power of active imagination, a deep visualization exercise where you consciously interact with figures from the unconscious. You close your eyes and let the images come. You enter into dialogue with the monster from your dream. You ask, who are you? What do you want from me? And you listen to the answer. This process requires surrender, and more than anything, honesty, because the unconscious knows when the ego is trying to manipulate. There's no use seeking the shadow with the intention to control it or defeat it. The goal is to integrate, to accept that it is a part of you. And to integrate, for Jung, means to recognize, to feel, and to make space. It means admitting that within you there are aggressive impulses, repressed desires, unhealed wounds. It means allowing those parts to exist within you, without denial, without excuses, without a mask. It means stopping the projection of what you haven't yet had the courage to face in yourself onto others. He warned, if you don't recognize your shadow, you'll meet it in someone else and call it your enemy. But when you recognize the shadow, something shifts. You begin to understand what lies behind your automatic reactions. You stop being a slave to your impulses, and you start to choose. Jung said this process is painful but transformative, because the shadow doesn't just hold what you fear, it also holds what you need to become whole. Within it lie instinctual forces, raw creativity, primal courage, archetypal wisdom, dormant potentials, but these treasures are guarded by dragons, and only those who face the dragon can reach the gold. Jung said that what we fear most within ourselves might be exactly what we need most in order to be complete. The nightmare isn't just a warning, it's a mirror. And more than that, it's a call to growth. Often, what appears in a dream as a horrible monster, as something that seems to want to destroy you, is actually a psychic force that's been rejected for so long it has taken on a distorted form. But if you have the courage to face that image, to look at it, understand it, speak to it, it transforms. What once was a nightmare becomes a source of energy, a force that was trapped in the unconscious, suffocated, desperate to be seen and given space to exist. Jung was clear. What we do not face in ourselves, we will meet as fate. In other words, what you don't confront inside will repeat itself outside, in your relationships, your decisions, your patterns. But what you face within, what you integrate, no longer controls you. And more than that, it strengthens you. Repressed anger can become drive. Fear can turn into wisdom. Instinct, when acknowledged, can protect. Pain, when felt all the way through, can make room for compassion. And that is why Jung said the shadow might hold the most vital parts of who you are, because that's where the pieces of you live, the ones silenced by shame, fear, or rejection. But it's exactly those parts that carry your raw authenticity, your true voice, your wild power. The nightmare is how those parts scream for you, not to destroy you, but to set you free, to remind you of who you are, beneath the masks, beneath the conditioning, to push you back to the center of your true self. When you understand that, nightmares stop being enemies. They become sacred messengers. They show you the path of pain, but also the path of healing. Integrating the shadow is not an event. It's a process. It's a journey that requires time, clarity, and courage. Carl Jung knew this path wasn't for those seeking comfort, but for those seeking truth. Because when you come face to face with the shadow, you see everything you didn't want to admit. Your most primitive fears, your most shameful impulses, your hidden insecurities, your hunger for control, for love, for validation, but also your strength, your passion, your creative power, your unlived genius. The shadow is like the basement of the soul. The deeper you go, the darker it gets, but also the more real. And when you bring that darkness into the light of consciousness, you reclaim parts of yourself that were left behind. Jung said that what has been rejected in the past gathers in the unconscious, waiting for a chance to be lived. And that's where many people get lost, because they'd rather maintain the image of being good, safe, and proper, even if it costs them their wholeness. But individuation, according to Jung, demands the opposite. The courage to be whole, not just good. The shadow doesn't dissolve through force. It dissolves through presence, through listening, through responsibility. It's not about saying, "That's just how I am," to justify the chaos. It's saying, "This is also me, and now that I see it, I can choose." That's how true freedom is born. And at that point, the nightmares begin to change. They stop being screams and start becoming dialogues. They stop being hauntings and become guides, because what once haunted you now walks beside you, not as an enemy, but as a living part of your psyche. And then, for the first time, you stop fighting yourself and begin walking with what once dragged you down. When you stop running from the shadow, you stop running from yourself. And when you stop running from yourself, you finally begin to live. Not as a fragment molded to fit the world, but as someone who has returned to themselves, whole, with light, with shadow, with truth. Carl Jung believed that a human being only becomes truly free when they take responsibility for everything they are. Even the parts no one sees, even the parts they once tried to forget. What you avoid the most might be what strengthens you the most. What scares you the most might be what transforms you the most. And what feels like a nightmare today might be exactly what's meant to wake you up. If this message resonated with you, or if you know someone going through inner struggles, fear, anger, or confusing dreams, share this video with them. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. It really helps me keep creating deep, meaningful content like this. And tell me in the comments, have you faced your darkest side, or are you still running from it? Because maybe that's exactly where your true strength has been waiting for you.